True scary stories. I'm sorry I've been away for a while. I got real busy real quick. But I didn't forget you. I've been hunting for amazing stories to tell you tonight. Anyways, I hope you enjoy these and I hope you relax. Let's get started. I was at Walmart and it was 9 p.m. I go back to the cheese section to take a look, but I see something in the corner of my eye. A lady with a hoodie, but her eyes are pitch black. No whites at all. She looks at me with the most evil grin I have ever seen. Not 20 seconds later, she shows up behind me as I turn around and is walking in a very weird reverse way. Looks sort of like she was leaning forward with her arms swinging, completely unnatural. But reversed, or like someone pressed rewind on a magic remote from Click. Everything felt dark and evil. I told my girlfriend, and now she's freaked out. I hate to say this, but you never know about Walmart, man. I see some crazy people at Walmart at all hours of the night. And frankly, there's I think maybe even a whole subreddit about weird stuff that happens at Walmart and weird, demon people and, time glitches and all sorts of freaky doppelganger things. I've read several stories that have to do with Walmart. I go to Walmart all the time, so there's nothing against Walmart here, but I have noticed that it shows up in a lot of stories, so I don't know what that's all about, but there you have it. Freaky. Freaky, freaky, freaky. Okay, next. This one has some pictures that I will include at the end. Here we go. I've lived in this apartment for about a year now, and every day there is new footprints on the wall that are weird color. They seem to be all the right shoes and no left shoes, but I swear up and down that they move around just about every other day. I've had friends come and look, and they agree that they do move around and disappear. All of these pictures are from the same day, and I will post an update in a couple days to show the change, since this is my first time documenting these footprints. Here we go. In 3, 2, 1. Bro, those look like bloody footprints to me. Like rusty, bloody footprints. Ew. That's really scary. Okay, and I'm gonna read a response from another Reddit user. It says, I had similar things happen renting a house on an old radar base. They were built in the 40s. Anyway, we lived there for 5 years. There was children's writing and drawings that would show up all over the cement walls. The metal vent near the dryer and the washing machine one day between switching laundry, I saw something in the corner of my eye. A child about 6 years old sitting at the bottom step, staring at the floor. In disbelief and total shock, I froze. I looked back, and she was still there. I opened the dryer door to continue what I was doing, and she moved to the dark corner under the stairs, her glowing eyes staring at me. My spouse of 5 years did not believe me until one day I received a call at work. She was frantic, scared, and commented that the dogs wouldn't leave her side. They barked and ran down the stairs. She turned towards the front door entrance and saw her sitting at the bottom of the steps, heading upstairs while the dogs were downstairs, freaking out. My spouse left the house after the call and went to stay with her nana. I got home around 9 p.m., about 3 hours after she had called me, and I raced to the basement without hesitation. Nothing suspicious going down until I noticed new writing on the walls. Chills. Fear. You name it, I felt it. I walked to the dryer. The door was open and the light was on. The light turns off automatically after 10 minutes, even if the door is open, and it shuts off maybe a minute after I got there. Spooked, I called my spouse thinking maybe she came back home to finish the laundry. She did not. As I leave the washer/dryer area, I noticed what looked like a freshly written message, like a smear a left-handed person would leave when writing from left to right on the metal vent. It read, "Leave now," in black, smeared writing, and beside it, a dripping, bloody handprint of a small child. I absolutely lost it. Ripped the railing out at the top of the stairs, frantically trying to get the fuck out of there. We shortly moved out due to mold and the trauma we both experienced in this house. Since we moved, all the paranormal experiences have stopped, and our luck has drastically changed. A year later, my spouse went to see a psychic with her grandmother, her nana, and she recalled the little girl. Claims that she follows my spouse everywhere she goes, and it's not an angel, but some kind of dark entity. She also predicted that I would be in a serious, life-threatening chain of events before the end of the year. I lost control of my vehicle on the highway, and I smashed into a rock going about 90 km in the winter, almost exactly how she predicted. We also won the lottery, the final number being 13, the house number of the said house we lived in, 500,000 Canadian. Unbelievable to say the least. based in a historic building positioned next to the docks. The building previously served as a customs admissions building. People getting off the boats had to come into the building and have an entry documented. We're talking about the sailboat era. Apparently, many people had died in the building, having been ill when they got off the boat. Staff had reported seeing a little girl wandering around the halls. This wasn't possible as the whole building was secure with security doors and sensors. We had a German working there who was very serious, cliché German. He never smiled, never told jokes, he was very stoic. One day when he returned from getting coffee, he asked the room, "Who is the girl in the halls?" He had seen her and assumed someone had brought their child into work. Anyone else, I would have thought was their imagination, but the German was way too serious. Yep, you got a little girl ghost floating around those hallways. That's pretty cool. Okay, I'm gonna eat some Pop Rocks now for this next one. This just happened 2 days ago. My mother doesn't believe me, only my brother does. Me and my family just moved into our house. A nice neighborhood close to my high school. Nice neighbors, nice house. Everything seems normal. We know the previous owner, but nothing beyond that though. Anyway, I was lying in bed with my dog, watching a movie. I sat up to reach the foot of my bed to pet my dog when I see this silhouette of a woman, shorter than the average woman, maybe a little thinner too, but definitely a woman nonetheless. She had walked from the back corner of my room, from the front of the house, to my walk-in closet on the opposite corner. I sat there for a moment thinking, I'm just seeing things. But then my dog springs up and begins to go crazy, barking at the closet. This was just the start. Later that night, I'm asleep, and I'm awoken when I hear a knock between me and my brother's shared wall. I think it's him, so I go to grab my phone to see what he wants. Right when I reach for it, there's a buzz. I flip over my phone, and there he has texted me the words, "What do you want?" I text back saying, "What? I thought that was you." No response. I just thought nothing of it, and I headed back to sleep. I woke up the next morning, and my brother was saying my name to get me out of bed. "Hey, wake up. Also, why is your closet light flickering?" I shot up, and I looked at the walk-in closet. The light was flickering, but the switch was off. I told my brother everything, and he did believe me. So he told my mother, but her, on the other hand, she thought we were insane. Throughout the past couple of days, I have heard many knocks between the wall and in my closet. I haven't seen anything again, but I have smelt and heard plenty. I don't know who else to tell. Another Reddit user says, "Ask your mom to switch beds with you for the night." I kind of agree. Come on, Mom. If you think we're insane, nothing's wrong. Come hang out in here, you know. That's freaky, dude. I would not be going into that closet at all. dresser girl. That is super, super spooky. Thanks for sharing. Next. I started working as a funeral director. We recently had a little baby boy come in a month into my career, and I'm dressing and doing makeup for a baby. This isn't a task I took lightly. I spoke to him, and I spent extra time with him. Shortly after the funeral, I've started hearing a little voice say, "Mama." The voice is almost a searching tone, as if there's a question after the word mama. I've heard it a few times, always in passing, but I know I heard it. The voice is too young to come from any of my children. I am only semi-prepared for the residual energy that will come with this career, but I look forward to sharing my experiences with all of you. That's really tragic and sad, and kind of sweet too. You know, that's gotta be one of the toughest jobs, I think. It takes a really special kind of person to be able to deal with death that much and in that way. And it's such an important job. I can't imagine. And certainly you're gonna have energies around you, I think. And spirit energy, and probably dark energy sometimes. I can imagine. I could never do that job, but I'm so grateful that there are people that have the ability to do that, because it is important. Okay, next. Please, no jokes. I am frightened, and I am not a person who scares easily. I live alone, and I solo backpack deep in the woods for fun. I sleep like a baby. Or I used to. Today, I had one of the best days of my life. Things have really turned around for me, and I was in a great mood. I love thrift shopping, so I decided to stop at a Goodwill. While I was there, in the housewares aisle, I had the feeling that someone was watching me. I turned around, and there was only one other person in the aisle at this very crowded Goodwill. She appeared to be between 18 and 25 years old. She was very pale, with dark hair, and dressed all in black. She didn't have anything in her hands. She was not holding a purse even, and wasn't looking at anything except me. Her eyes were incredibly dark. I was immediately uncomfortable. My first thought was, what is she doing here? She doesn't belong here. Then, every cell of my body propelled me away from her at lightning speed. This is when the thing that really bothers me happened. I walked away from her with my cart, and then I turned my head, and she was beside me, just across the aisle. It was like she had teleported. It scared the shit out of me, and I decided to leave. As I was going to leave, my niece and her family happened to walk in. Now, I swear, we don't have family reunions at the Goodwill. This was just a day of strange coincidences. I spoke to them briefly, and then I left. The woman scared me, so I decided I wasn't going to think about it anymore. I went about cell phone rang. It was my niece's husband, but the call would not connect. That's not super unusual because I live in the woods. So I tried to call him on my home phone, but that wouldn't connect either, and that was unusual. That's when I received the text from him that said, "Hey, really odd, I know, but do you remember a young woman dressed in black, emo style at the Goodwill today? Maybe 18 to 25 years old." I had chills all over as soon as I read that, and I was instantly terrified. I knew that he had seen her too. I tried to call again, and this time the call went through. He had the exact same experience that I had. The soulless yet soul-staring look, the teleporting, the dread and desire to get away from her. He is a full-grown adult man with a full-time job and a family, and he typically would not be afraid of a random woman at a Goodwill. I feel like it's important to mention here that my niece never saw her and thought her husband was crazy until I confirmed the story. I don't know what I saw. I don't know why my niece's husband saw it too, but she didn't. I don't know why it frightened us so badly. I shut all of my curtains and blinds. I locked all of my doors. I lit some candles and I asked for protection. I have been shaking. I'm 50 years old and I am scared. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Take your time. I'll be up all night. Update. I was not up all night. I lit white candles and I salted my windowsill and I said a prayer and I went to sleep. I still have no idea what actually happened yesterday, but I'm going to go back to not thinking about it. It did not come home with me, and that is enough for me. Man, a lot of shopping experiences not going well for people in this round of stories, I notice. I shop at the Goodwill all the time too, so I'll let you know if I see anyone freaky in there. Are you kidding? That is creepy, 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 creepy. Moving on. Okay. It's time for a glitch in the Matrix story. Here we go. A few months ago, I went to Japan. It was a trip of a lifetime for me, with a lot to see and do. One thing I did every day, especially in Tokyo, was take the trains. I was riding the Tokyo Metro one day. I forget exactly where I was going, but at one station, I watched a man get on the train. He was Caucasian, shorter than I was, wearing a maroon polo shirt and balding slightly. He looked sort of like my high school piano teacher, which is why I remembered his look. He entered the train and he made a left turn from the door and made his way behind me. Around 2 stops later, the doors opened, passengers got on and off, and there was one particular passenger who got on, a white man. shorter than me, slightly balding, looking like my piano teacher from high school. He was wearing the same maroon polo shirt. He came into the door at the exact same angle, made the same turn, and this time he looked at me. His eyes looked like he had seen a ghost. The exact same passenger at 2 different stops, 5 minutes apart, on the Tokyo Metro, entering the same train car at the same angle. Oh man, that is a wow, because I think that was like a double glitch. I think you both had a glitch in the Matrix at the same time. Glitchy. That's really cool. Because he probably saw you twice too. Oh man, that's a good one. That's a good glitch. I love a glitch. You know I love a glitch, people. Cool. That's so cool. And weird. I love it. Okay. Next. It was around Halloween. A time I always loved. The air felt great, and I was excited for pumpkin pie and all the spooky decorations. That year, my family bought this Halloween projector that could display all sorts of scary videos onto surfaces, like little pumpkins laughing and zombies and skeletons and ghosts, you know, the usual stuff. But one video in particular stood out to me. The Ghost Bride. The video showed a woman in a wedding dress, and at first she seemed normal. Well, as normal as a ghost could be. She would float in one spot, and she would gesture with her finger, as if beckoning you to come closer. As the video projection continued, she would slowly move from one side of the window to the other. The projector was designed to display these videos onto the windows, by the way. Eventually, the Ghost Bride would start crying, floating up and down, and then she'd let out a loud scream. But my family couldn't point the projector at the window, since our window was too big, and we had huge blinds covering most of it. So instead, they aimed the projector at the wall inside the house where everyone could see it. Anyway, one night, I was getting ready for bed, and my dad told me to turn on the projector like usual. So I turned it on, and I got in bed, and everything felt normal. Until around 2:30 or 3 a.m. I noticed a faint white light coming down the hallway. At first, I didn't think much of it, and I went back to sleep. But a few minutes later, I noticed the light getting brighter. Then, I saw what seemed to be a glowing white cloth moving across my door frame. Curious and uneasy, I walked to the door, and I saw the Ghost Bride standing there. She turned her head and looked right at me, then made the same hand gesture from the projector video, motioning for me to come closer. I knew that this wasn't normal. Terrified, I immediately went back to bed and covered up, and stayed still for a few minutes. When I finally got the courage to check again, I peeked into the hallway, but this time, nothing was there. house were playing. Confused, I went to the living room to see what was going on, and I realized the projector was completely unplugged. I know for a fact that I didn't unplug it that night. I have no idea if my parents went into the living room after I fell asleep and unplugged it, but they never mentioned doing so. All I know is that I saw the ghost bride standing in my hallway, just like the one from the projector video. And ever since that night, I've been afraid of that house. I still live here today, but I stay in a different room now. That is super freaky. Oh my god. Can you imagine opening your door and this hologram is standing there beckoning you to come in? That is really, really scary. And I freaking love Halloween and all the decorations and everything, but that would freak me out. Okay. Early in the morning at 4:45 a.m., I was sleeping on my left side, facing my bedroom door. I woke up to my door open, and what I thought was my 5-year-old son standing in the doorway. It was still dark, so all I saw was his figure, backlit by the nightlight in the hall, but it was definitely his size. I propped myself up on my left elbow, and I took out my earplug, and I said, "John, come here, baby." And instead, he closed the door a bit, standing behind it. Again, I said, "John." I blinked, and the door was back to its original, almost closed position, and nothing was there. I checked the monitor, and my son was sleeping. I knew that I wasn't asleep because I had my earplug in my hand. I went to his room, and no way in 30 seconds that he could have been in my room and then sound asleep. Our house has had its share of weird happenings. Lights and electronics turning on. There's definitely been a ghost cat, but nothing like this. Ghost kid, you have a ghost kid in your house. That is super creepy. Oh, so freaky. That just gives me the icks. Okay. Next. Okay, I'm gonna end with this one today. There was a kid I became friends with in middle school. We were both kind of the odd ones out. Both did theater and read a lot and didn't have too many friends. I'll call him Charlie. There was one time that Charlie came over to my house. I'm going to try really hard to do this justice because it still sends chills down my spine just remembering. My sister had recently thrown a Halloween party in our basement, and there were still black lights instead of regular light bulbs throughout the area. We were hanging out down there, and I wish I remembered more of this conversation, but long story short, Charlie was being very odd, saying things that I didn't really know how to respond to that were very dark and intense. He talked about having some sort of dark presence or / being possessed. I think he could is going to go out. I kind of laughed and waited. After about 30 seconds had passed, I started to say something, and as soon as I did, bang! Not only did the light go out, but it popped so loudly that I genuinely jumped. My breath catches, and I just stare at him. He has this unexplainable look in his eyes. His eyes were naturally dark brown, but they looked black. It was so intense and unnerving. He did other things during this hangout, such as insult me playing a lead role in a play at our local theater, which wasn't typically like him. I didn't really know what to do, and he was always around at school, so I just kind of played it off. We played video games, and I did my best to move on. A couple of weeks later, it was my birthday, and Charlie had been invited over a month ago, along with 2 other girlfriends of mine, Lana and Chloe. We all met at my house and decided to walk to the downtown area, not even a mile from my home. There was a small path and a heavily wooded area that served as a shortcut. As we were walking, Charlie began talking about graves and death. Chloe, Lana, and I all kind of looked at each other uneasily. I don't remember exactly what Charlie was saying, but it was some genuine, wholehearted tirade about how he was the Prince of Death, and it was part of him. Or something along those lines. I don't remember what else was said, but he ranted for so long. The rants became more of like growls in a deep, intense, and booming voice. Suddenly, without provocation, he launched for Lana's neck. He locked on and was full on choking her with all of his strength. I'm not proud of this, but as soon as I saw Lana hit him and get him off her, I just ran. Lana, Chloe, and I all lived in the same neighborhood just a couple of doors down from each other, and we sprinted full speed and didn't dare look back. I don't really know what I was thinking, but we all decided to split up. So I slammed my door and sat in my room, terrified, not knowing what to do. My parents weren't home for some reason, so I just sat there for what felt like hours. Then, the police knocked on our door. My older sister answered it. She came upstairs, horrified, asking why the police said Charlie had knocked on the neighbor's door with no shirt, no phone, and a missing shoe, and all banged up. I was horrified. I knew for a fact that when we left him, he still had his phone, shirt, and shoes. A while later, my parents got home and the police came back to question me. I told them everything, and they claimed that the other girls had told them a different story. I have no idea why they would do that, and insisted I didn't have anything else to tell them. Apparently, Charlie had been in and out of psych wards, which I had no idea of, and they had recently adjusted his medication. Nothing further came of that situation with the police, and I didn't see Charlie at school for at least a full year after that. Obviously, the kid had some mental issues by society standards, but nothing will ever be able to explain how that light went out. It will forever leave me unsettled. I am unsettled. That is some middle school darkness right there. Yeah, that kid's got some issues for sure, but something